Hi, I'm Dr. Christiane Northrup. For more than 4 decades, I've been working at the forefront of women's health as an OBGYN physician, best-selling author, international speaker, and authority on everything that can go right with your body. I hope you've been getting a lot out of this free program. To start this video, I want to do just a quick recap of what we've learned so far in case you haven't had a chance to watch the first 2, which you can still watch, by the way. In the first video, I explained why we often give up power to our bodies, thinking that doctors and scientists surely know better than we do. I also told you why this isn't true and why taking an active part in your healthcare is necessary to create optimal health. It's not just about going to the doctor, it's about asking questions and tuning into what works for you. I also walked you through a couple of practices to help you get through the fear that this shift might bring. Because, let's face it, being responsible for your body can seem scary. Isn't it easier to let the doctor figure it out, except that they don't? In the second video, I talked to you about how your body knows what's best for you and how you can use this inner guidance system to help you make changes that will bring more health and happiness to your life, not just your physical body. Then I gave you some exercises to help you get in touch with what your body is saying. She's always talking. You just need to learn how to listen. And now, in this video, I'm going to take you through the true causes of health, and they might not be what you'd imagine because none of them have to do directly with your body. It's not about what you eat, how much you exercise, how much you sit or stand. Yes, all of these things are important. But what I really want you to understand is that flourishing in a physical body is about far more than having a perfect diet and exercise routine. I've treated so many people who have perfect diets, all whole organic foods, and yet they're still sick. People who exercise the exact amount they're supposed to and still can't avoid getting that cold that's going around the office. Same thing going in the other direction. I know people in their 90s who are healthy as can be, and yet they still smoke and drink regularly. And they never worry about diet or exercise. Never did, never will. So what actually brings about health? I like to think of it as how they use their life energy and how well they practice what Dr. Mario Martinez calls the causes of health. I was introduced to the work of Dr. Mario Martinez when the publishing house Sounds True sent me a series of his lectures on CD known as the Mind-Body Code, for which he now has a book. I was blown away. At the time, I was researching Goddesses Never Age, and here I had found Dr. Martinez, who did work on healthy centenarians in all over the world, 700 healthy centenarians on every continent. And what he found is that they practice the causes of health. And what are those causes of health? And by the way, this work, this very rigorous academic work, contributed mightily to what I was hoping was the case with Goddesses Never Age. And now I had the scientific proof to show me that that's really the truth. And Dr. Martinez founded the Biocognitive Institute, which is how biology and thinking and culture all interact together. So what are the causes of health? Elevated cognition, thinking positive and uplifting thoughts, and seeking out good news, which means you got to stop watching the bad news, which is just designed to keep you hooked on more bad news and drugs, as far as I can tell. And I'm talking about prescription drugs that you probably don't need. The other one, exalted emotions, feeling ecstatic emotions regularly, engaging in things that bring you joy, inspiration, delight, awe, love, devotion, and pleasure. All the things that we're kind of shamed about, like, you know what I hear regularly? You're having too much fun over here at restaurants when I'm laughing with my friends. Okay, righteous anger is another one. Expressing and acting on justifiable anger that comes from the pain caused by another without regard for your own or another's innocence and humanity. So what that would mean is if you see a waitress being abused at the next table, you actually stand up and say something and your immune system responds positively rather than just sitting there and freezing and taking it. And then I added a fourth cause to this list, and that is expressed emotions. Not suppressing your emotions, good or bad, to the point where they manifest as illness in the body. Now, good emotions are not going to manifest as illness, but the bad ones will. While this is similar to the righteous anger point above, I believe that it applies to all emotions. So now I'm going to run through each of these so you have a full understanding of what they are and how they apply to your life and your health. So let's begin. Elevated cognition. Again, that's thinking positive and uplifting thoughts and seeking out good news. First part of that seems pretty simple, right? Thinking positive thoughts. We all know it's good for us. You've probably heard the phrase, choose the thought that feels better. That sounds easy, right? But really, how easy is it to do that? I talked in the first video about using affirmations and that they plant seeds of positivity into your subconscious. That's actually part of elevated cognition. Your subconscious mind controls more than 90% of what you do, and thank goodness. Can you imagine having to think about every breath you're going to take? Now, you need to do baby steps with affirmations because if it's too much of a leap, they can cause stress in your body. So let me give you one that would be too much of a leap. I have the body of a 20-year-old and men fall all over me with desire. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? And that would just be an ego trip. So instead of saying, I'm happy and healthy and everybody likes me, I'm thinking of the famous Saturday Night Live skit. Because notice, the mainstream media always makes fun of this stuff. Why? Because they want to feed your pain body. This is where the power lies. How many movies have you seen where some dude is driving along and they have affirmations in the radio? And he's always like the stool pigeon, the dumb guy. He's trying to improve himself through affirmations. How stupid can you get? I just have to point that out. Okay. But an affirmation might be, I am finding that my life is unfolding perfectly, or everything is working out for me. Things like that. That's really, really helpful. And remember that the subconscious mind means that anything you do without thinking is simply programmed into your brain, including beliefs like, I'm not worthy of success, the world is out to get me, or what one of my friends said, no good deed goes unpunished, or even cookies make me feel better when I'm sad. You can see how the subconscious can lead you down some pretty bad paths, right? I'll bet you can also see how this would prevent you from choosing the thought that feels best. The brain and the body does what it's programmed to do. If you think negative thoughts, like nobody appreciates me, over and over again, those neural pathways get worn into your brain. So when a situation pops up where that might not apply or might apply, that's the brain's default thought. But you can create a new default thought pattern by consciously shifting the thoughts you think. I like to picture this process like forging a new hiking trail in the woods. The very first person who hikes is on rough terrain, and it's not easy. They're ducking through branches, tripping over rocks and roots, navigating on even ground. But as more people follow that same path, it simply becomes more hospitable. Branches get broken so they're no longer in the way, rocks get kicked to the side, the ground gets compacted and evened out by footstep after footstep. So, to work toward a state of elevated cognition, you need to consciously choose positive thoughts, stopping the brain from going down that clear pathway and forcing it to take a new route. And this takes repetition. Just like with the hiking trail. The more you do this, the easier it will be to do in any moment, even subconsciously. Here's how it works. Throughout the day, you have to stop and think critically about your thoughts. It's best to do it right at the point when something frustrating or annoying happens. This will give you a chance to stop yourself from diving into negativity. Once you recognize the negativity, you can consciously replace that negative thought with one of higher vibration. Let's say your boss gives you an extra assignment. You start to feel like you're being taken advantage of. Instead of thinking, my boss is always giving me too much to do. I'm going to break. I'm going to quit, but I can't. This is the best job I can find, and on until you get to the part where you're telling yourself that you're not smart or capable enough. The goal is to stop when you feel this frustration beginning, and then think something like, I was assigned this task because my boss thinks I'm capable. If it puts too much on my plate, I can reach out and let my boss know that I'm having a hard time. Perhaps she can help me reprioritize so I know where to focus. She appreciates me. Yes, this is hard and it takes practice because as I've already mentioned, 90% of our thoughts, stem from our subconscious mind. They're defaults. And guess what? The vast majority are put in place by the age of 11. Like how far you think you can go in life, what you think is possible for you, what you think you deserve, but that can be changed. So right now, take a moment to think about some of the common things that set you off. Plan some conscious shifts. Reframe things now instead of depending on your brain to do this in the moment when emotions are high and the negative thoughts are in overdrive. What triggers you to dive into negative thoughts? And then once you get into those thoughts, what are they, for example? You want a relationship. You might find yourself thinking, I'm too old, I'm too ugly, I'm too crazy, or I can't imagine anyone falling for me. Get familiar with those thought patterns. That's the first step. Just start listening to your inner dialogue. Note it, understand it. The more conscious attention you pay to it, the more likely you are to notice it in the moment. And that's when you have the power to stop it in its tracks. And then the next step is the reframe. Even if you don't necessarily believe the opposite of it, you can argue with it. You can do a reality check on it. Are you really too ugly to have a relationship? No, you're not. Look around you. But I have another idea that I love. When you catch yourself being really hard on yourself or negative, remember, all a feeling wants is to be acknowledged. So if you're really doing a bang-up job of criticizing yourself, you say, wow, you're doing this so well. Nobody has ever picked up a flail and beaten themselves up as well as you are doing it. And what happens when you do that? It's a cognitive dissonance, and it's always funny. So congratulate yourself for nailing it with how much you're taking the situation down. Anyway, by doing this consciously right now, you'll be prepared for the in-the-moment action. And no, this won't happen right away, but the more you do it, the more it'll happen. One important thing to note as you're getting familiar with your thought patterns is don't judge yourself for having these thoughts. Notice them, accept them, because if you simply ignore them, you are, in essence, resisting them, acting like they don't exist. And what we resist persists. Every thought we have is there for a reason. Negative thoughts arise from our shadow self, the disowned parts of ourselves that we have too often been judged harshly for and now feel we have to hide. Which is why so many of those thoughts aren't even fully conscious. The more you beat yourself up for having negative thoughts, the more they persist. So that's the first part of elevated cognition. But elevated cognition also means that you seek out good news. To do this, you carefully curate the kinds of literature, movies, and media that you watch, listen to, and read. The physical effects of words and images have even been proved experimentally. An article published in the journal Psychology and Health in 1988, and there are many, recounted a study on this topic done by David McClellan of Harvard University and Carol Kirschnitt of Loyola University of Chicago. And in it, medical students were shown two different movies, and the level of an antibody known as IgA was measured in their saliva samples. Levels of IgA in the body correspond with the strength of the immune system at the openings of our body. High levels are associated with a strong immune system. Low levels are a sign of weakened immunity. In the experiment, McClellan wanted to see if simply watching and hearing certain subject matter could affect immunity. One movie that they watched was about war, and the other featured Mother Teresa doing her work in Calcutta. After watching the destruction of war, the students' immune system levels plummeted. And after watching Mother Teresa, their antibody levels rose, including those of students who didn't hold any particular spiritual beliefs. The physical body responds to that which is life-affirming and associated with healthy affiliation with others, those things that make life worth living. You practice elevated cognition by choosing uplifting or funny movies or television shows. Choose books with uplifting, inspiring, fascinating, or funny messages. Become media savvy. Follow the money behind the mainstream news. Remember that darkness feeds on your fear and anger, so stop feeding it. That doesn't mean you bury your head in the sand. It just means that you use your own power to curate the things that you allow to enter your mind, spirit, and body. You become a force for good, not another pawn in a machine that runs on greed, fear, and powerlessness. Okay, the next cause of health is exalted emotions. Our families and cultures teach us that there's a limit to how much joy we are allowed to experience. No doubt you've heard someone say, that must be nice, or you're having too much fun over there, or don't break your arm patting yourself on the back, or don't toot your own horn. We learn early on to put a ceiling on our joy so that others will feel more comfortable around us. After all, if someone is angry or sad, we instinctively know that our joy and pleasure will irritate them and make them feel uncomfortable. Over time, we internalize the idea that there really is such a thing as having too much fun. And then, unfortunately, the only way we can loosen up and uncouple those buzzkill frontal lobe inhibitory circuits in our brains is through culturally approved drugs or alcohol. The truth is that we are born with an enormous capacity for joy and pleasure. Watch any 2-year-old if you doubt this. The sheer joy they find in pretty much anything is amazing. When I was a kid, I loved doing somersaults underwater in the pond on our farm. I'd spend what I referred to as timeless time just being in the water and enjoying the sun, the water, and my ability to move. As the years passed, however, I lost that capacity to lose myself in timeless time and live in the moment. Fortunately, I've learned how to go back there, and so can you. We all have the capacity to feel more joy and pleasure. But you first have to notice when you're feeling joy. So begin to pay attention to when you feel happy or joyous, or when you experience something exalted. Purposely start looking for what brings you joy. Pay attention to the beauty of flowers. How does a gorgeous window box make you feel? And what about music? For me, there's no quicker way to reach my heart than listening to or playing a beautiful piece of music. So often we find ourselves putting off feeling joy and pleasure until later, when we have time. The thing is, you must make time, because feeling exalted emotions takes no time at all. You simply have to be present with the joy and beauty that are all around. And then, after choosing positive thoughts, choose joyful experiences. Make them a standard part of your day. Schedule that hot cup of tea with your eyes closed. Schedule into the day. Actually put it on your calendar. And then don't let anyone schedule over it. It's a meeting. You're meeting with a very important person. Yourself. The next cause of health is on the other end of the spectrum, righteous anger. Experiencing, expressing, acting on anger can actually be healthy. But it's not just standard anger over every little thing that frustrates us. Much of that is actually brought about by negative beliefs, like that new project from the boss scenario we discussed before. That might make you angry, but it shouldn't necessarily do so. But there are things that should make you angry. For example, let's say you see that your child is about to be harmed by an adult. Your response should be to get angry with the abuser and get your child out of harm's way. Now, I'm not sure if you noticed that I said new project from the boss scenario shouldn't necessarily make you angry, but there are instances when it should. If this really is a situation where your boss is forcing project after project on you with no respect for your time and sanity, and with no help when it's literally too much for anyone to do, this should bring about anger. The difference here is that the situation is true exploitation, not simply you feeling overwhelmed. In either of these situations where true moral outrage is justified, anger is good. But not just for anger's sake. Anger, and your body's natural system of stress hormones, gives you the energy to take action to rectify the situation. And then once the situation has been handled, those hormone levels return to homeostasis, to normal. If you don't address this justified anger, it doesn't just fade away. Rather, it festers in your body. Your stress hormone levels stay high. You become drained, tired, and sick. I love how Woody Allen puts this concept in his movie Manhattan. He says, "I can't express anger. That's one of the problems I have. I grow a tumor instead." To maintain your health, to not grow a tumor, and to live with peace of mind, you must tap into your righteous anger and use it for productive change. You take action. Can you think of any situations in your life where you're pushing justified anger down rather than using it? I bet you can, because we all can. And now we come to the final cause of health, and this is the one I've added: expressed emotion. As you can probably tell, Emotions, such as righteous anger, are not just pesky problems to overcome. They are signals from your body regarding your needs. If these emotions are not heeded, both in their expression and in action taken because of them, then they will change the course of your life. Expressing and acting on positive emotions will steer you in the direction you want to go. They'll bring beauty and support into your life. Think about it. If you feel overwhelmed with gratitude and you pay attention to this, you know that you are doing something or interacting with someone who brings joy into your life. So you'll look for more of that. If you express that gratitude, you will call forth more of the situations that inspired that gratitude in the first place. Most people don't have a problem noticing and expressing positive emotions. However, many of us do have problems with negative emotions, including the anger we discussed, but also sadness, fear, worry, and grief. But to live a healthy life, this needs to stop. Emotions that are left unexpressed and unacted upon often manifest as illness in the body. When you're feeling negative emotions, don't suppress them. When you've lost a child, been through a devastating divorce, or the death of a beloved friend or spouse, you simply must surrender to the healing balm of movement, sound, and tears, the body's innate way to heal deep pain. There's no other way to heal pain and move into joy than to feel it and move through it. Eventually, you have to wail and moan, shed tears, and then surrender to a higher power. Otherwise, all this energy will get stuck in your body and result in all kinds of health problems. And this isn't just true with present-day emotions. You have to deal with the events and situations that hurt you in the past. Trust me, these areas of pain will not get better through mere positive thinking affirmations and vision boards. Think of your health like you would a wall covered in old wallpaper that you're going to redo. You won't get a good result by just slapping up the new stuff over the old. You first have to strip down the old paper off the wall, repair the surface. Only then will you have the proper surface for the brand new paper. It's the same thing with the grief, pain, and loss that we have from childhood or even from past lives. So expressing emotion sounds easy enough, doesn't it? Well, it is. And it isn't. It's because it's a natural part of who we are, but it isn't because most of us have been programmed to suppress our emotions. With this topic, again, it's a matter of recognizing when they occur and encouraging them. So if you feel like you need to cry, cry. Go into your room, shut the door, lay down. Just let the feelings come. If you feel like you need to rage, rage. Punch a pillow until your arm is tired. Scream, cry. When you allow yourself to go all the way in and all the way out with movement, sound, and tears, your body will clear the trauma from your DNA. Nothing else is required. When we are born, we're equipped to do this. The next time you allow yourself to do this, you may feel as though if you truly allow yourself to go all the way down into the abyss of pain, you will never, ever get out. Trust me, you'll get out. This is good for you. This is what your body needs. Every emotion signifies a need, and sometimes that need is just to cry or take a nap. Just a couple quick notes here before we move on. First, I understand that it's not always convenient to cry or rage when you feel like you need to. You don't want to lay down in the middle of a meeting and weep. But in these cases, there is something you can do. You need to acknowledge the emotion in the moment. Deal with it later. When you notice it, you say to yourself, "Don't worry, honey, I'll get back to you." And then make a point to attend to that deep emotion as soon as you can. It will still be there, or maybe not. Second, if you're worried about getting stuck in an abyss of pain, you can have a trusted friend just sit with you as a witness. But your witness is not allowed to hug you or try to talk you through it. That will stop your process. When we allow ourselves to feel our deepest pain, we also have access to our most ebullient joy. Very often, you will find yourself laughing hysterically after a deep emotional release. They're opposite sides of the same coin. So there you have it, the 4 causes of health. In elevated cognition, thinking positive thoughts, seeking out good news. Exalted emotions, feeling ecstatic emotions regularly and scheduling in joy. Righteous anger, expressing and acting on the justifiable anger of your life. And expressed emotions, not suppressing any emotions, good or bad. If you can get these things in check, you will have the chance to experience extraordinary health. because this is a huge part of the lifestyle that flips those DNA switches we talked about in the first video of this series. Remember, only 5% of your health is genetically determined. The other 95% is in your hands. I know this is a lot of information to digest, but I hope it helped you begin to realize just how powerful your emotions are. Also, I'd love to hear about what surprised you regarding what you learned. Please post your thoughts in the comments section below this video. Tell us what rang true for you. Since this was such a packed lesson, you might have heard something that other people missed. Make sure to keep an eye on your inbox for the final video in this series, where I'll tell you all about the root cause of most chronic diseases today.